Hi everyone, welcome to Rise from the Ashes, the rally. This is the second meeting that I'm hosting this winter. And the last time we were together, I wanted to talk a little bit about um, a story that I think is important to share, especially for people that are in toxic work environments currently and are actually interviewing for other jobs while they're working at a toxic job. So back in 2018, I was at a full-time position in a industry that really just wasn't aligned with, you know, my interests or skill set. And I didn't know that that was going to be the case until after I started working there. But I knew pretty early on that it wasn't a good fit for me. Yet I stayed in the position because I wanted to prove to myself that, um, you know, I wasn't a quitter. So what happened was, as I continued to work at this job, things just became more heightened. The feelings that I had early on just became uh, front and center, and there was really no more um, ability to deny that it just was time for me to move on. We are in the middle of a blizzard in New York City, so I apologize for that. Um, so what happened was is that when I was really ready to leave, and when I was interviewing for different positions, it was hard for me to be in a good mood in the interviews. And so I started to notice that there wasn't really much happening uh, in the interviews, that it was important for me to probably start talking with someone. So at the time, I used my EAP to get therapy. And so I went into therapy with a goal, which I think is important anytime you do work with a therapist. And my goal was to find a new job. And so I started working with this woman through my EAP, and I explained to her what was going on and how every day going to the current job I had was just really dreadful, and it was bringing me down, and it was just really stressing me out, and that I was like in the middle of interviewing. And she started to realize like how much of a toll the job that I was working was taking on me, and that it was actually affecting me in the interviews. So there was one meeting that we had, one therapy session that we had, and she said, I challenge you the next time we meet that you quit your current job. I know you don't have anything lined up, but if you continue to go into the interviews, uh, with this frame of mind, with this attitude, it is going to be picked up by uh, the people that are interviewing you. You might not do as well. You might actually never find anything. And it was really a big challenge. And, you know, I ended up taking her advice and quitting without anything lined up. And I was later given a full-time position because just the fact that I had no longer had to worry about being at a job that was draining me, it really did uh, do something for me mentally, where I was able to feel a little bit more carefree, uh, more excited about the future. Um, and so it ended up helping me out in the long run. And I share that with you because it's so interesting that I was working with somebody through an EAP program paid by my employer that like I was having issues at. And she actually challenged me to quit that job. And I took that advice. And it was a very memorable experience, which is why 8 years later, I'm sharing it with you all. So, um, this just goes back to how toxic jobs can negatively affect you on many levels. They can affect you outside of the job and how they can kind of hold you back. You can kind of think of it like just a toxic relationship. It negatively will affect your entire life, and it will start to spill over in areas of your life that aren't even directly attached to the relationship. And so, uh, kind of like what I've been saying, as an astrologer, and if you know anything about astrology right now, the South Node is in Virgo, and Virgo does have this fascination of fixing things and, working at things and uh, perfecting things. And so I've been telling people when the South Node is in Virgo that you need to release the things that are past their expiration date, releasing the need to hold on to things past their expiration date. Because would you drink spoiled milk? Would you eat moldy bread? No. Then why hold on to people, places, or things like a job that are toxic? Um, so let's talk a little bit about how um, that could work for somebody, uh, but how it could maybe not work for everybody. So, um, for me, when I was working for other people, I now work for myself. I always paid myself when I was at those jobs. And I think that that is so important for people to understand how that gives you an emergency fund or a runway fund where you have the freedom to do what I did, which was to quit with nothing lined up. But if you're not in a position where you do have an emergency fund or a runway fund, then you might have to stick it out. You might have to stick in that job for a little bit longer. So what I recommend for people that are in those experiences is to look into your company, see if it has an EAP, which is short for an employee assistance program. And in an EAP, typically there is an allotted amount of time for therapy that is paid by your company. And that can do a lot for people that are in toxic work environments. Now, in the same breath, I think it's important to delineate what is actually a toxic work environment versus what is just a job that doesn't excite you. There's a difference between that, obviously. Toxic work environments are environments that make you anxious. They make you feel really bad about yourself, doubt yourself. There is intimidation going on. There might be bullying. There might be unrealistic deadlines. Um, there's like gossip or people, withholding information from you. That is a toxic work environment. And typically, toxic work environments cause you to uh, worry about the job outside of typical work hours. Um, so if you're in a position like that, that is a toxic work environment, and there's many different ways that it can be toxic, but those are just a few examples. If it's not that, it might just be you having to have a shift in mindset and really maybe maybe you're not working in a toxic environment, and maybe it's something like you just need a little bit of a shift in your mindset with work. Not every job is going to be perfect. There's always going to be something that isn't 100%. But if you are working in an environment where people want to help you, want to answer your questions, give you the ability to grow, uh, you know, it's not a hostile work environment. Like you might not be working in a toxic work environment. So that's why it's good to come to sessions like these to talk a little bit about what is going on, um, getting opinions from other people that have worked in toxic work environments. Um, I think that a good benchmark for anybody that is wondering if they're in a toxic work environment is, you know, do you like really, really dread going into work every single day? And if it's a full body yes, then you might be working in a toxic work environment. If your self-esteem has decreased exponentially from the time that you started working there to right now, chances are you're in a toxic work environment. You know, if your body is starting to react negatively, like you're not sleeping, or you're starting to have panic attacks, or you are um, having some type of bodily function, like for instance, I was so stressed out that I developed shingles at the age of like 27, which is very rare. That's an example of a toxic work environment. So, um, thank you for joining and being curious about, this type of service that I'm offering. I'll have one more coaching call, uh, and I would really like for people to come to, you know, share their experiences, and we can rally behind each other and give each other support. So I will see you for Rise from the Ashes, the rally in March.